Hi everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Spring Demo Day of the One Mind Accelerator. One Mind has been at the forefront of mental health innovation for nearly 30 years. Founded in 1995, One Mind has raised over $546 million for scientific research, media, and workplace initiatives targeting mental health. We're now building on this track record to support founders building next-generation solutions to the hardest problems in the field of mental health. Our first class of 11 companies came into the program with an average of $3.5 million previously raised and came from top backers including Y Combinator, General Catalyst, and more. The founders are tackling everything from mental health for underrepresented populations to breakthrough treatments for serious mental illness and everything in between. We're incredibly grateful to all of the mentors, advisors, and leaders in the mental health field that came together to make this program a reality. We could not have done it without the support of this community. We're so excited to introduce you to this year's class of companies. If you want to connect with any of the companies either for investment or to support their entrepreneurial journey with an introduction, feedback, or another value add, please reach out to us directly at the email in the event description below. Thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the show.
Aria was a 19-year-old college sophomore and my close friend. After experiencing an act of violence, she was diagnosed with PTSD and severe depression. She tried 2 medications, each of which failed her, and on her 3rd try, instead of properly engaging her, she lost contact with her doctor and ended her life in her dorm room.
This is my older brother, Jordan. He was in the midst of an 8-year battle with severe depression. He tried 12 medications that didn't work. He was hospitalized 3 times for suicidal thoughts, and my family spent hundreds of thousands of dollars out of pocket on his medical expenses. He was one of the few who was able to stay engaged long enough with his doctors to finally find the right medication. I'm Morgan Hewitt, and I formerly led healthcare partnerships for Facebook.
I'm Kyle Pierce, a former health tech attorney.
And we are joined by a stacked team of the nation's leading medical researchers, including the former head of neuroscience from Harvard, MD PhDs, and former head of mental health products from Ro.co. Together, we are serving people like Aria and Jordan, and those who are suffering from serious mental illnesses, also known as SMI.
So SMI represents a smaller and more severe subset of mental illnesses. This isn't the mild or moderate depression and anxiety that 98% of telemedicine companies try and serve. These are the most expensive mental illnesses that result in significant life impairment, such as the most severe cases of depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and more. They represent 12.8 million patients who are racking up over $200 billion in costs that result in 3 times more hospitalizations, who are 10 times more likely to commit suicide.
Successful treatment for patients like Jordan and Aria is dependent on 3 factors: the right treatment matched to the right patient and for the right amount of time. For any one mental health patient, there are hundreds of FDA-approved treatments, many of which work well in clinical trial settings. But in the real world, patients are prescribed the wrong medications, and even when prescribed the right one, they are not engaged well enough to stay on them long enough to work. This means that less than 20% of patients with SMI receive effective treatment.
Options MD is addressing these 3 factors by sitting squarely at the intersection of technology and the power of community. We're harnessing first-party data to match SMI patients to better treatments, keeping them engaged and adherent longer. And this all begins with our engagement-focused patient experience, the root of which is our private patient community of over 6,000 members. With 65% monthly engagement rates, this community is the largest of its kind in the US, providing long-term support.
Our high-touch software experience then builds trust with patients by diving deep to understand their motivations, what drives them, how their lifestyle or practical factors may affect their ability or willingness to stay on proper treatment. This makes our patients 4 times more hopeful about their treatment journey.
All of this data is passed to our psychiatrist-led teams of clinicians who are trained to work with serious mental illnesses and think inside of that Options MD whole patient perspective. They're able to work with our software to prescribe over 200 different treatments.
Our data set is already resulting in proprietary treatment matching technology. And we are developing additional algorithms that reduce the time to identify if a medication is working, improve diagnostic capabilities, and conduct more proactive suicide prevention. We're moving incredibly fast. Our software is resulting in 70% of our patients being prescribed innovative combinations of medications. Our focus on patient engagement is resulting in 2 times higher than average patient retention. And our higher quality care is resulting in a revenue of $600 per patient per month, which is almost 3x the average telepsychiatry clinic.
Having just launched a few months ago, we are already on track to reach $1.5 million in annual run rate by the end of the year. All of this only allows us to deepen our foothold in the high acuity market as we leverage our strong unit economics from our fee-for-service model with treatment-resistant depression. We then expand across all of SMI, contracting directly with health insurers in value-based arrangements, expanding our TAM to $193 billion. That being said, if you invest in us, you will be investing in the moat we're creating around our data and software experiences, each of which have licensing opportunities themselves. OptionsMD is defining a new category when it comes to data-backed long-term patient engagement, and we invite you to join us as we launch our seed raise at the end of the month.
Hi, I'm Emily Stern, the CEO and co-founder of Ceretype Neuromedicine. We're the world's first brain circuit biomarker engine, and we are transforming treatment development and patient care for psychiatric and neurological disease. We're a spin-out from Brigham and Women's Hospital, Harvard Medical School. We have top medical and scientific expertise, as well as industry-leading commercial accelerators. Psychiatric and neurologic diseases are common, devastating, and tremendously costly to society. Yet, despite the scale of these problems, they have not been adequately addressed. So patients need something other than trial and error treatment. Clinicians need objective biological information to better be able to guide care, and life science companies need faster and lower cost ways to develop new solutions. So what is it that's missing? Biomarkers are fundamental tools for managing virtually every other disease in the human body. But we have no comprehensive actionable biomarkers for neuropsychiatric disease. We still rely on subjective assessments. And as a physician who sees the real desperate need, the situation is untenable. Biomarkers don't just make sense from a medical standpoint, but they represent huge growth markets. The potential market size for psychiatric and neurologic biomarkers is as much as $50 billion. So Ceretype addresses this problem head-on by creating powerful imaging biomarkers for these diseases. We do this on our comprehensive platform that includes precision imaging with functional MRI scanning, where we can visualize whole brain neural circuits. We use advanced analytics, including ML and AI, and we layer on top of this deep insights from neurobiology and neuromedicine. So what is it that makes us so confident that we can bring this biological information to psychiatry? Well, it's our tech. So we've developed advanced next-generation fMRI scanning that allows us to capture signal that was literally black hole previously, and to get rid of artifacts that have plagued fMRI really since its inception. And so this enables us to scale the technology accurately, reliably, and reproducibly. Our go-to-market is clinical trials, and we're already at revenue. Psychiatric and neurologic drug and device developers are really hungry for solutions to de-risk, accelerate, and improve their probability of success. So they currently spend over $7 billion on over 600 assets and 1,200 trials, yet their success rate is really abysmally low. So they really need help. So our clinical trial product addresses this. It's easily integrated into global trials, and we're able to identify drug or device mechanism of action for any intervention or any disease. We produce quantitative patient-specific reports, and we're able to subtype and stratify patients. And importantly, this is done on standard MRI machines. So we are already in market HIPAA-compliant, audit-cleared, and this does not require FDA approval. And so while we're gaining immediate traction in the clinical trial space, there's a significant opportunity for future scaling in the clinic. There are over 45,000 clinicians who would benefit from having better biological information to guide care and 150 million patients. So we're in the process of putting together our first FDA 510(k) submission for these future applications. Importantly, our solution follows existing healthcare workflows, and there are already existing reimbursement codes. Our clinical trial revenue model includes a study design fee, a scan analysis fee, and royalty fees. And when we do expand into the clinic, we're estimating $1,000 per report. We are the only company to commercialize fMRI for neuropsychiatry. We measure brain activity, and we're able to do this on the surface of the brain and deep regions for circuit profiling. This is the only way to localize dysfunction, to identify targets, and to specify drug mechanisms. And while there are certainly other complementary measures and companies, none of them can do what Ceretype does. We're already in market and at revenue with 2 client engagements. We've closed a channel partnership to accelerate our global trial adoption. We have a clinical validation study that's underway with a major medical center. We have a substantial IP portfolio, and we've built a scalable, compliant, audit-cleared infrastructure. We're currently raising $2 million, and with this, we'll be expanding our number of partnerships with drug and device developers, filing our FDA 510(k) submission, developing a market access dossier, and converting the patents, the provisional patents that we filed over the past year. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I look forward to speaking with you further.
How I'm supposed to feel.
Schools around the country, membership is clamoring for guidance.
Lyle's decision could help more athletes to put their mental health. You have to put the person before the student, but you have to on the
Your
inside.
mental health is just as important as your physical health.
Athlete mental health is in crisis. My name is Brendan Sullivan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ZAMA Health, and I experienced this firsthand as captain of the track team at Yale, where I saw numerous teammates dealing with struggles of their own, from anxiety and depression to eating disorders and even suicide. But our team was not an outlier, and in fact, this is an issue that impacts over 140,000 student athletes every single day. And because it's become such an issue, the NCAA is now passing new requirements that will mandate that D1 programs provide a direct path to mental health services specifically for their student athletes. And if they don't do this, then colleges are actually at risk of losing NCAA eligibility. And so ZAMA is well positioned to help athletic departments meet these requirements in a much more affordable and effective way compared to anything else on the market. And that's because our athlete solution not only helps them meet these requirements from a clinical standpoint, but we're investing in our technology and AI infrastructure to further bolster both physical and performance outcomes for athletes. At our core is an athlete provider network of therapists who've received continuing education training on the needs of the athlete community and the types of interventions that are helpful for addressing this population. However, we are investing more in digital tools such as self-guided pathways, peer-to-peer support, and educational programming, which can be customized and recommended based on an individual's background and issue area. By leveraging automation and artificial intelligence, we can recommend specific action plans for athletes without the need of human intervention. It's a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity. For although we're starting with colleges, we intend to push further into gyms, the fitness community, and even wearables that are now tracking biomarker and fitness data. 80% of Americans say that their top reason for working out is their mental health. Ironically, mental health challenges are the main reasons people stop working out. And so ZAMA can help solve for this bridge and eventually help solve the engagement and retention issues that have plagued gyms for decades. And we really have the industry contacts to scale. We're initially focused on colleges since these mandates will provide an opportunity to gain new market share quickly. But this is a solution we can absolutely bring to the mainstream fitness community and can leverage our B2B partners and NIL contacts to further bolster awareness. Last year, we brought in $230,000 in revenue, and we're fundraising now to further invest in our growth. And we really believe we have the team to execute on it. My co-founder was the former associate medical director for the only inpatient eating disorder unit and general psych unit in New England. And we're joined by advisors with deep expertise in clinical operations and professional sports. Most notably, Dr. Jennifer Huberty is spearheading our science efforts. Dr. Huberty was the former head of science at COM, a multi-billion-dollar application in large part to the clinical studies that she conducted for them. And similar to what she did at COM, Dr. Huberty is going to help add scientific validation to why ZAMA's model leads to better health and performance outcomes for users. And that's why we really see ourselves between this niche of specialized care and B2B, because we are developing an athlete care delivery model really focused on serving the needs of this population. And we're already showing success. Over 85% of ZAMA's members say that we have helped them meet their mental health goals. And so if you're interested in learning more about how we're revolutionizing mental health within the athletic arena, then we'd love to chat. Thanks, and have a great day.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Dow, founder and CEO of Tetricus Labs. I founded Tetricus because of my own personal experience with mental illness. I was misdiagnosed at 14 with bipolar disorder and spent the next 10 years of my life as a total treatment failure, in and out of the hospital, multiple doctors, multiple medications, until finally at 24, I got the right diagnosis, the right treatment, and recovered within a year. Within 6 months of leaving intensive outpatient, I was COO of a successful startup and went on to close over $40 billion of strategic transactions as an M&A banker at Evercore Partners. My story, as we all know, is far from unique. 60% of patients don't recover from 2 or more treatments for mental illness. Those patients are then classed as treatment resistant and cost the system 10 times more than your average psychiatric patient, leading mental illness to be the #1 disease burden in the country. But what if, from the beginning of my journey, I could have gone online, taken a comprehensive evaluation, gotten a clear and precise differential diagnosis, and a treatment recommendation for what treatment would work for me specifically the first time around. We at Tetricus deeply believe that this product needs to exist, and it's exactly the platform that we're building. In order to build it, however, we need to rely on the cutting edge of technology in both machine learning and neuroscience. We know today that the core function of the brain is to build a model of the world around you that allows you to navigate the world effectively. As you go through life, you're constantly getting new information and learning. And there's wide variation in how we all learn and process that new information. But when that process breaks down, that's what causes the symptoms of serious mental illness. And so we at Tetricus employ a series of online games, tasks, and prompts that allow us to get fine-grained resolution into how your brain specifically processes information and learns. The implications of this are that we can deliver the specificity and precision of a brain scan without the scanner, meaning that we can do a comprehensive evaluation and differential diagnosis from the comfort of your own home. The way our business works is that we partner with top-tier psychiatric providers that distribute our evaluation directly to patients, and then they use the results of that evaluation to triage incoming referrals to the right type and level of care within their organizations, and they monitor their patients over time in order to refine care to optimize outcomes. Our initial target market is the residential and intensive outpatient treatment markets, which we estimate at about $140 million revenue opportunity each year. And we expect to take the learnings and data that we gather from that market in order to ultimately target a larger hospital, primary care, and telehealth opportunity. We've been excited to get robust initial predictions across 6 different diagnostic conditions in a non-clinical population, and are in the process of launching 2 pilots to gather clinical data in June of this year. We've also been very lucky to recruit truly a world-class team of leaders across the multiple disciplines that we need in order to make our vision a reality, including computational neuroscience, machine learning, and human-centered design. We've also been backed by true giants in the space, including the chair of psychiatry at Yale, the head of depression research at Yale, Reid Hoffman's Tech Transfer Fund, and of course, the One Mind organization. As you can imagine, we are deep in R&D mode right now as we work towards launching these pilots, building our MVP, and collecting our initial data and doing initial analysis. However, we would love to connect with mission-aligned capital partners early and keep you updated on our progress as we go along. Thank you all so much for your support of the One Mind organization as a whole. We look forward to one-on-one conversations later this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Hola mi gente, Luis Suárez, fundador y CEO de Sanarai. Not gonna continue the whole pitch in Spanish, but when it comes to my mental health sessions, I do prefer to have them in my native language. And it turns out it's really hard. In the middle of a mental health crisis, with booming demand for services and a shortage of mental health professionals, the problem is exacerbated for the Latino community. Only 5% of mental health professionals in the US speak Spanish versus 13% of the population that speaks Spanish at home. Treatment rates are way below the average for this community. Getting services is 3 times as hard, and I've experienced this myself. Originally from Mexico City, came to the US to do my MBA, worked in management consulting for 3 years after I graduated, and in 2020, I was looking for mental health services like other times in life, and I was struggling to find someone that I could speak Spanish with and that could fit my schedule. That's when I realized about this issue and decided to start Sanarai by connecting folks that speak Spanish in the US to mental health professionals in Latin America to provide culturally sensitive Spanish language emotional support at accessible prices. That's still the core of what we do. Services in Spanish are not only super hard to get, but also doing these services in your native language is going to be beneficial, as well as the cultural relevancy provides a baseline of understanding when you start with your provider. And these initial matches are going to be the best predictor of outcomes. And lastly, given the geographical arbitrage that we work with, we're able to offer our services at very affordable rates. Right now, we're priced at $42 for a 50-minute session, 50. So we become a very convenient and affordable way to get high-quality mental health services. The cool part about what we're building now that we have around 40 providers across the US and Mexico is that they are becoming experts working with this community after thousands of hours. And when new clients come in, they are having better and better experiences. And we've seen this in our growth. We recently hit over 500K in annual run rate. Our revenue grew 7 times last year. I'm very proud that we've been able to scale this with a very high bar for quality. We have 90 NPS, great feedback from our individual users as well as partner organizations. We go to market in 2 ways, direct to consumer, folks that find us on our website, book their sessions there. Lots of them come from word of mouth. B2B2C, where we work with Google as an enterprise customer, as well as community centers that offer our services to their stakeholders. We have a strong team that blends business acumen, experience working across the US and Latin America, as well as strong mental health leadership and experience in developing and building clinical programs. There's nothing out there like us. So the big US mental health players, they are not meeting our clients' needs in terms of language and affordability, and they are a copy-paste of a model that is working for someone else rather than a company built from the ground up with this client in mind. And the Latin America-based startups, they are similarly in early stages, very focused on Latin America, We believe that it's better to build our partnerships, compliance, and relationships in the US first, and then expand to Latin America rather than trying to do it the other way around. The market is massive. Only in the US, more than 42 million people speak Spanish at home. That within itself is a $3 billion opportunity. And these services are transferable in terms of language, geography. So we estimate the total opportunity to be $45 billion. We're only getting started. We will become the largest provider of Spanish language culturally relevant care. So far, we've raised $600K to build a very strong network of providers, validate different customer acquisition channels, as well as building an engaging brand that the community can trust their mental health with. In this next phase, we're going to be focusing on building an internal tech team as well as mental health leadership in the company to bring on the next iteration of our tech product and take some of the friction out that our clients are having. Beyond, there's a lot of exciting things that we can do with AI, chatbots, expanding to other wellness areas within the Latino community as well as to other markets. We're raising $2 million. This gives us 24 months of runway, takes us to $10 million annual run rate, and we already have great partners on board. Excited to have new conversations and bring on new partners on this journey. Thank you very much for your time.
I'm Jacob Robinson, founder and CEO of Motif Neurotech, where we are creating the first minimally invasive brain pacemakers for mental health disorders. For the last 10 years, I've been a professor at Rice University, where my research lab has been creating neurotechnologies to stimulate and record brain activity. When we made a breakthrough in my lab that allowed us to miniaturize devices to the size of a pea, I took a leave from my tenured position and we started Motif. We started Motif for the 2.8 million Americans who suffer a major depressive episode and don't respond to their drugs every single year. For these people with treatment-resistant depression, they've struggled, often for decades, with a life-threatening illness and are desperate for help. Fortunately, we now know that if we can stimulate specific regions of the brain, we can help people with treatment-resistant depression. We can help stimulate the region associated with executive function that allows them to lift themselves from that malaise, to do the things that they need to do in order to get well, to get out of bed in the morning, brush their teeth, take a shower. This technology works. It's cleared by the FDA, it's reimbursed by insurance companies. But only 30,000 people a year use this technology. Why? Because it's hard to access. It's expensive and it just doesn't last. In order to receive this therapy, you have to travel to a clinic 5 days a week, every single working day for 6 weeks. If you don't live near a clinic, it's simply inaccessible to you. It's also expensive. A single course costs $15,000, while some of it is reimbursed by insurance. A lot of it's coming out of your own pocket. It doesn't last. The median time to relapse is only 11 months. So every single year you're having to go through this arduous procedure. And we think there's a better way. We know there's a better way. And that's with the Motif solution, which creates a TMS to go like miniature implant. The system consists of two components. One is a lightweight wearable, a baseball cap, that communicates with this tiny implant. This implant gets inserted in a 20-minute outpatient procedure below the skin, never cutting a hair on your head. It sits above the brain. It's not brain surgery, it never touches neural tissue, and it's completely removable. After you get this 20-minute outpatient procedure, from that point forward, you have access to this life-saving therapy in the comfort of your own home. And it saves money. It's less expensive than 2 courses of TMS and lasts for 10 years. Anytime you might slip into a new depressive episode, you simply have to put on a baseball hat. In order for this device to make it on the market, we looked at the product market fit and all 4 parties that are required for our success. For the patient and family, I've already described how it creates a life-saving therapy that's accessible and creates a better quality of life. For the surgeon in the hospital who have to implant this device, they make money under existing CPT codes. For the psychiatrist, they're driving better outcomes in the most difficult to treat patients. That's going to bring more people in the clinic, not only build up their own bottom line, but also allow them to provide the kind of care that brought them into the field in the first place. And for the payer, the insurance companies, they're saving money because this implant costs less than 2 courses of TMS that they're already covering. Now, this market alone, people who suffer from treatment-resistant depression and make a plan for suicide, that market's an $11 billion market, 450,000 people every single year in the United States. but we think we can work our way up to the entire treatment-resistant depression population, which is 2.8 million Americans every single year in a $40 billion TAM. And that's just the beginning. We're learning from transcranial magnetic stimulation that we can not just treat depression, but there's also opportunity to treat PTSD, chronic pain, addiction, TBI, anxiety, ADHD, and Alzheimer's disease. They're all undergoing clinical trials, and in all cases, we are learning that TMS, while it is effective, doesn't last and requires constant visits to the clinics. For all of these therapies, we can unlock the accessible at-home version of it. In order to bring all of this together and bring it to market, I've partnered with clinical co-founders, Samir Sheth and Sunil Sheth, who together have over 5,000 surgical procedures between them. We've also brought on experts from the med device industry who have over 50 years of experience in companies like Medtronic, BlackRock, and Boston Scientific. As I mentioned, we've been developing this in my lab over nearly a decade, and we've already done small animal studies in rodents, moving on to large animal studies. And after we founded Motif, and just this last month, we've created the first magnetoelectric brain stimulator and demonstrated that it works in humans. These two milestones have de-risked the major technical risks associated with this device. This device works. It can stimulate the brain. It can stimulate the brain like TMS. What we're raising now is the round that will take us into the clinic and show for the first time that this miniature device can be effective in our clinical population in a group of people with treatment-resistant depression. I would love to tell you more about Motif. Here's my email, and I look forward to talking to you.
Hi, I'm Simon Tankle. We're Heading, and we're doing mental health outcomes for all. There's so much mental health innovation going on, from digital therapeutics, psychedelic therapies, and new devices. Where we fit in is we're building a clinical model which analyzes all the new treatments and integrates them in the name of patient outcomes. The way we do that is through a comprehensive clinical model with three key elements. Firstly, we have a salaried clinician group for psychiatry, therapy, and nutrition. Secondly, we have interventional treatment centers which offer much superior outcomes for mood disorders such as ketamine, TMS, and Spravato. Thirdly, we use digital tools to enable us to measure the outcomes of these interventions and ensure we are appropriately selecting which modalities to use to prioritize these outcomes. We've got very strong product market team fit, doing over $500,000 a month in revenue. Our LTV to CAC is over 3-to-1, and our 2 centers are already profitable. I've assembled a world-class leadership team from some of the best digital mental health care companies, such as Compass Pathways, Foresight, and Octave. And we're a network with over 20 plans in Texas, so the care's affordable. There's no issue getting patients with over 1,600 monthly customers. Our CAC is $250, and the goal is to get CAC below $100 through referrals from medical specialties. This means that the CAC will stay low because you can't pay for those referrals, and the patients who really need our services the most will get them. Providers are also engaging, attracted by our uniquely outcomes-driven approach to mood disorders. What's coming next is we're going to be the first company to offer outcomes-driven pay. So the more patient scores go down on their various scales, the more providers will get paid. We're in network with over 20 plans under fee-for-service, and the goal of the company is to continuously refine our outcomes, show them to payers, and drive up reimbursement. Our 2 centers are profitable and generating significant outcomes. They cost $120,000 to open, and at maturity, generate $2.5 million a year in profit. Furthermore, the clinical outcomes are quite staggering. As you can see from the chart on the right, the newer treatments, such as TMS, ketamine, and the psychedelics in the future, are much superior to the legacy treatments, such as SSRIs and therapy, which we also offer. It's an excellent time to be building this business in terms of the regulatory landscape. The public health emergency is ending, which is definitely not a good thing for the digital-only telemedicine providers. Furthermore, given our purpose-built interventional treatment centers, we're uniquely positioned for psychedelic therapies to be approved in the coming years. Next quarter, we're going to be raising $3 million to enable us to get to cash flow break-even and ultimately grow the business over the next 5 years to 200 centers and billions of dollars in revenue.
Serious mental illness is awful. So here at Flock Health, our mission is to enrich the lives of people with serious mental illness. One of the characteristics of having a serious mental illness is that patients are prone to recurrent and cyclical mental health crises, things like psychosis and mania that often have horrible consequences for the patients, for their loved ones, and for the healthcare system at large. For patients, these consequences look how you might expect, things like job loss, homelessness, violence, and even suicide, things that are horribly tragic and life-altering. For their friends and family, these crises can strain relationships, can create financial challenges, and can introduce unpredictability and fear into their day-to-day lives. Providers don't like this. These patients overutilize services. They can introduce safety concerns for their staff, and they're frankly expensive to treat. And for insurers, these patients aren't just expensive on a direct care or an episodic basis. They're also, because of the high amount of comorbidities, very expensive on a total cost of care basis. Layer on top of this that the status quo of care for these episodic crises is entirely untenable. If a patient is lucky enough to either notice for themselves or have their friends and family notice that they're getting worse, they might have the chance to go see an outpatient clinician, their therapist, their psychiatrist, maybe their PCP. And what they hear more often than not is, it's too late for me to help. Go to the emergency department. They'll go to the emergency department and they'll meet a clinician there. The clinician will ask, how bad are you doing? And the patient will say, I'm doing pretty bad, but I'm not that bad yet. And the clinician will say, that's great. Come back when you're worse. I am a patient in this community. I have had severe and recurrent depression for my entire adult life, and I've gone through this myself. And the feeling when you have to go home from the emergency department just to get worse, not knowing if you'll be in a right mind to seek help later, or frankly, if you'll even be alive, is terrifying, and it's awful. And so here at Flock Health, we're trying to solve that. We're building a digital health platform that helps patients prevent ED visits and inpatient stays by detecting crises early before they become acute and deploying targeted interventions to keep them from becoming acute. We first identify the decompensation by collecting longitudinal data for patients and, very importantly, their loved ones, then applying current clinical standards to identify a crisis before it becomes acute, which allows us to then provide interventions, both pharmacological and psychosocial, via our in-house team of clinicians to then bring patients back down to stability before the crisis becomes acute, with the whole goal of keeping people out of the hospital. And then lastly, recognizing that we can't prevent every crisis, Flock also provides crisis navigation. Just because we can't prevent a stay entirely doesn't mean we can't shorten the length of stay to save money and heartache for both payers and for patients, but also improve care by navigating effectively and coordinating very well. As a whole, what this does is this creates a new patient journey, whereas before the status quo of the patient journey would be periods of relative stability punctuated by acute crises and care that are often very interruptive to their lives and very expensive. The new Flock patient journey is one of more stability, where patients are monitored and supported on a day-to-day basis by both Flock and their friends and families, such that if they decompensate, they're able to come back down to stability quickly and easily. This isn't a small problem, and this isn't a small opportunity. On a financial basis, SMI patients generate an excess of $75 billion every year in just ED and inpatient costs. If you take a conservative cut of the number of stays we can prevent, as well as a conservative cut of a shared savings rate, this TAM looks like it's a little north of $10 billion. But looking from bottoms up, that there are over 14 million patients in this population in the US, and taking a conservative pricing based on current remote patient monitoring rates, this TAM starts looking north of $20 billion. This is a big opportunity. And yet, no incumbents are looking at this specifically. The behavioral health landscape for startups is big. There are a lot of companies doing amazing work. Very few of them are focused on the SMI population. And of the few that are focused on SMI, no one is looking at direct clinical care and prevention for these episodic crises. That is what Flock is here for. That's what we are trying to do. And we think that payers will be interested. The current standard in behavioral health is a fee-for-service environment where providers get paid for having visits. And for episodic care, that's very expensive. And so what we are proposing is the opposite, taking a value-based or pay-for-performance approach as we get more sophisticated, such that payers will only pay if we're successful at preventing visits. And we think that'll be very attractive from a financial basis as well as an outcomes basis for patients. And I think we have the team to do it. Our team is very robust. We are a 4-month-old company, but with a very robust team of people who experience SMI from every angle. Aside from their formal and professional capabilities, our team is full of patients, direct caregivers, and clinicians who've been touching SMI in different ways for most of their professional careers or often their entire lives. We're still in the early phases of building. We're building our product now and building our initial partnerships. And so while we're not actively raising money, we are soliciting feedback, input, as well as introductions to people who might be interested in what we're building. And so if you are interested, I would love to speak to you. Please feel free to come find me. I'd be thrilled to tell you more. We hope you join the flock.
This February, the CDC reported in their Youth Risk Behavior Assessment Survey that 40% of teens struggle with consistent sadness to the point where it impacted their daily life. That's 9 million teens that consistently struggle with their mental health. To put that into perspective, that's over 200 completely packed football stadiums of teens who are struggling. We are in an absolute crisis, and my own mental health struggles with an eating disorder as a young teen made me immensely curious to understand why this was happening. I started by talking with as many teens as I could find, and I met a 14-year-old named Kaya, who lamented to me about how frustrated she was by her experiences with therapists. She told me how she was trying to get help with how social media impacted her life and mental health, and how frustrated she was by having to explain to her 50-year-old therapist what TikTok even was before beginning the conversation. In addition, she told me that she felt trapped in the format of 1-hour sessions and had since stopped going to therapy completely. And it turns out that many other teens that we talked to felt similarly and had had similarly frustrating experiences with clinical care. This is actually backed up by the Child Mind Institute, which says that teens are more likely to seek out mental health support from friends and family rather than therapists or counselors. And the parents of these teens were increasingly worried that their teens were not getting support. In these conversations, we kept getting asked the same question by both teens and parents, actually. Why isn't there someone who's younger and more relatable who I can talk to and get support from? And so that's exactly what we're building, a mental health platform where we connect teens to a trained 20-something mentor who helps them thrive through providing flexible support given via our mobile app. Teens are matched with someone who shares a similar life experience and acts as a guide to help teens live their happiest, healthiest life. Less than a therapist, but definitely more than a friend. Our mentors are background checked and complete over 40 hours of training, which enables them to provide really high quality support, as well as to train them in how to escalate any more serious clinical issues that might arise. In addition to providing someone who's young and relatable, we developed a new way to deliver mental wellness support that's mobile first and completely flexible, so that parents know that their teen always has someone who they want to reach out to. In addition, our AI-powered software enables our mentors to be the best that they can and provide a safe and effective experience to all of our teens. We're taking a fundamentally new approach and built our model alongside an incredible team of clinicians to ensure that our mentors provide an exceptional experience. Now, this is a really important problem for 2 reasons. First, spend is huge in the adolescent mental health population already, and the CDC reports that, unfortunately, mental health concerns in the adolescent population are only rising. In addition, the supply shortage of behavioral health providers is amplified by the fact that fewer and fewer young people are training to become clinicians. And as we heard before, teenagers aren't exactly excited about seeing older and older therapists. Without a question, there's a lot of people focusing on this space, but most of them are focusing on increasing access to clinical resources, which unfortunately is increasing access to a fundamentally broken system. Our opinion is that you can't solve the mental health crisis without providing a new modality of care that engages young people and also creates a new supply of providers. Our novel supply of providers acts as a first line of defense against mental health concerns, and parents love having us, so much so that they are willing to pay for subscription-based mental health care at a price point of $200 a month. Now, you're probably saying, okay, Patrick, I get that teen mental health is a huge problem, and I get that we need to increase the access and supply of providers, but why should I care? It's a great question, and you should care because there's a major cultural change happening in families around the US. Mental health care used to be an afterthought for teens. You only get support when something is very wrong. That's changing, and parents have told us that mental health has moved up the stack and now sits on the same level of preventative support, just like dentists do. Our opportunity is to use this low-cost and palatable mentor to wedge our way into the parent and teen relationship as the default preventative support for mental health, and therefore own distribution to a host of other products and services to help support teens. We've seen some really awesome engagement in our pilot cohort and are launching fully this summer. We've raised a $3.2 million seed round led by General Catalyst and a ton of other awesome investors, and our team is working around the clock to bring awesome, relatable support to 1 million teens. We aren't currently raising, but we're really excited about supporting as many teens and families as possible. And so if you know any parents of teens or teens that could use support, please let us know. We would love to support them and bring them into our private beta.
Pain fucking sucks. Flowly is a clinically proven platform for reducing pain and its comorbidities, anxiety, depression, and disordered sleep. I learned firsthand growing up around pancreatic cancer, which is a highly painful disease, that pain loves company. And 50 million Americans suffer from chronic pain, which is close to 50% of the American workforce. Close to 88% of those people also suffer from disordered sleep. 42% of people with pain also have depression, and 34% also have anxiety. But unlike a lot of other solutions on the market that are just addressing the physical pain or just addressing the psychological pain like anxiety and stress, we actually address all at once. Flowly is a one-stop shop for pain. We offer VR biofeedback sessions, which are done at home for daily nervous system training. We offer regular community-based workshops to address the cycle and the social aspects of pain, as well as the human guides that you can actually call or text for support. Most importantly, we actually send all our users a low-cost VR headset and low-cost sensor to their house, which means that we can actually collect real-time physiological and survey data. Flowly was awarded a $1.2 million grant from the National Institutes of Health, and we've actually put Flowly through randomized controlled clinical trials where we saw an average 40% reduction in opioid usage. About a year later, we actually launched our direct-to-consumer subscription out of Y Combinator, where we grow over 30% month over month in net revenue, and we grew primarily through provider referrals as our primary acquisition channel. And across our users, we saw an average 4 sessions of Flowly completed per week, with almost up to 12 sessions for our power users. Last year, we were actually approached by organizations to implement Flowly as a pain and burnout tool for their employee populations. We're now working with one of the top 3 largest payers in the US, as well as one of the largest social worker organizations, where we've seen really outsized results for their employees. We're now expanding those pilots and actually focus on developing more. So I talked a lot about this, but how does Flowly actually work? I'm going to actually walk you through a quick demo here. But the way Flowly works is when a user signs up, they download the app, and then we actually send them a kit to their home, which includes that low-cost headset and sensor. Now to get started, you slip on the headset and the sensor from the comfort of your bed or your couch, and you enter these beautiful, relaxing worlds that are immersive in of itself, but actually we're teaching you how to control your heart rate. And we do that by showing you your heart rate in real time, and through voiceover, through breath work, and through gamification, we actually teach you how to shift your nervous system through your psychological and physiological states from a fight or flight mode to your rest, digest, and recovery mode. And then as you do better and better, the world changes around you. More stars grow, more flowers grow, and after a 5, 10, or 15-minute session, you can actually go into your data portal and track your progress. Our founding team is made up of development, design, and engineering experience from DreamWorks Animation, Hyperloop One, and Yale. We have the former managing director of Willis Towers Watson leading partnerships and the chair of perioperative medicine at University of Pittsburgh Medical Center leading our clinical trials. We are not currently raising, but we are interested in connecting with folks in HR and benefits as well as at payer groups to build upon the traction we already have partnering with organizations. Thank you for your time. My name is Celine Tien. I'm the CEO and founder, and this is Flowly.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Newell-Green, the Chief Medical Officer for Flourish Labs. 58 million adults in America have a mental health diagnosis. Over half get no care and only a third get therapy. There are hundreds of startups working to close the treatment gap in mental health care. There are virtually no startups addressing the workforce gap behind this. There are just over 500,000 therapists. We need to more than double the number of providers for everyone to get care. At Flourish Labs, we do two things to address this. We hire people with experience of mental health challenges and we train them to become certified peer supporters. We then give them jobs to deliver virtual support on peers.net, our telehealth platform. We didn't invent peer support. It is evidence-based treatment with hundreds of studies behind it. It's covered by Medicaid and commercial insurance, and there are established training standards set by the states. What we're doing is massively scaling it using technology. We developed our own purpose-built online training, which takes 40 hours. On our peers.net healthcare platform, you can choose a peer supporter who shares your identity or life experience, for example, a Black person with depression, and see their availability and book an appointment within 48 hours. We use AI to measure outcomes and to automate supervision to ensure high-quality care at low cost.
I'm Obi Felton, the CEO of Flourish Labs. The reason we can do this today is because of 3 inflection points. COVID has made online training and telehealth acceptable and reimbursable. AI is at a point where it's good enough to automate processes that eat margin, and the next generation wants a different kind of mental health care. We're starting with young adults because their treatment gap is the biggest and because they want support from someone who gets them. We co-create our product and services with Gen Z to ensure that we meet their needs, both on training and on care delivery. So how do we turn peer support into a sustainable business? Some of our competitors recently went bankrupt, so we take it seriously. You all know that the market is huge. If we get even a tiny sliver of outpatient mental health services, we can build a $100 million business. The unit economics are attractive for payers at half the cost of therapy. Medicaid reimbursement rates are around $65 an hour, and our wages are around $18 an hour, so our projected margin is 50% even at those rates. But we do have to operate efficiently to stop this from being eroded. On go-to-market, we're systematically exploring several ways. Our target business model is working with health plans to get peer support reimbursed, just like therapy. While we build that pipeline, we're experimenting with selling to colleges, to employers, and B2C. 4 things stand between us and wild success, and we know what we need to do. When we set these milestones last summer, we thought building a workforce and getting reimbursement would be the hardest. We've actually made great progress building the workforce. There's strong demand. Every time we open the job, we get hundreds of qualified applicants at zero cost. We have 32 peer supporters on the platform now, another 40 hired in training, and we'll have 200 by the end of the year. We know demand for our service is out there from external studies and our own user research, but we just launched, so it's early days. On reimbursement, getting coverage and contracts for non-licensed providers takes time. We're having active conversations with 3 commercial health plans, 2 Medicaid plans, and a provider group who serves high-risk Medicaid patients in a value-based model. We're establishing the evidence by collecting internal outcome data and by an external clinical study conducted by UC Berkeley. If you're now excited and ready to invest, I have bad news. We're not raising our next round until early 2024. We are looking for $200,000 in philanthropy donations to go directly to Berkeley.
Here's how you can help. You can introduce us to potential partners. innovative health plans, employers and colleges who want to try our services, provider groups with Medicaid or employer contracts who want to add peer support into a step care model and subcontract us, for marketing to companies and organizations who have a large Gen Z user base and want better mental health for them. We look forward to having a conversation with you. Thank you.